On Saturday night, I'm gonna bring you to a place you never want to be. I'm bringing you to 7th layer hell.
Okay.
No, I'm bringing you to 7th layer hell. We'll say what's up to your dad while
Our tale of the tape for this, our main event of the evening. 4 years apart with similar height and reach. We send it inside the octagon to Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening. And when the action begins, our referee in charge of the octagon, Herb Dean. And now, this is the moment UFC fans around the world have been waiting for. Live from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. UFC Welterweight Championship of the World. This man is a wrestler, professional wrestler, 17 wins and 3 losses. He stands 5 feet 11 inches tall, weighing in at 170 pounds. Introducing the challenger, Colby Chaos Covington. And now introducing the champion, fighting at the red corner. This man is a kickboxer, holding a professional record of 21 wins, 3 losses, and 1 no contest. He stands 6 feet tall, weighing in at 170 pounds. Presenting the reigning, defending, undisputed UFC welterweight champion of the world, Leon Rocky
You will see performances from athletes that you've never seen before. You're stunned when you see it. Whoa, that guy's terrible. Comes back a couple months later, he looks great again. And you'll have that ring rust that's very real, and that'll always get identified. And a guy will fail that test or pass the test when there's an announcement that he's left. That traditionally would be done through a suspension or a retirement, traditionally. And I wonder how odds makers and DraftKings specifically would take that into account. And I bring you that example because while traditionally comebacks are done after a suspension or retirement, but always after some kind of announcement, I've seen guys have comeback fights after 4 months gone. I watched Tyson Fury tell us during a fight, I will never fight again. Leading into the fight, was it 90,000 people show up? And he had his retirement fight. He announced, I am done, I am gone. And by the time we see him again, he not only has a fight, he's got 2. But they still talked about it. It was a comeback fight. Just because that announcement had happened. And I'm drawing you that distinction because if you can have a comeback fight simply because an announcement happened, it doesn't mean you can't have a return fight in the absence of the announcement. And when you have a guy that's 18, he's 23, he's 26, these things don't matter. When you have a guy who's over 30, right? Every fighter that gets old overnight. You just don't know when that night came. So now when all of a sudden you're taking 8-month breaks, even in the absence of an announcement, you're still dealing with a comeback fight. So when I look at this and I see that it's even money, I'm wondering if any of that is taken into account. And this wasn't meant, by the way, to give a bump to Leon. Well, you guys know my personal relationship with Colby. I will extend that to Colby, who had his last fight with George Masvidal, and I was at it, and it doesn't feel like that long ago. But the truth was, it was multiple Masvidal fights ago, to the point that Masvidal's even retired from the sport, and that wasn't just yesterday. It's been a couple of years. Colby's had 1 fight in a couple of years. So, for guys that live the right life and they train the right way and they're ready to go whether they had that chance or not, these comebacks don't affect them. They're not the same thing. Not just a physicality, it's a mentality. Where were you? Where was your motivation? And did you have the eye of the tiger? I don't suggest for you that Leon did it. I'm just suggesting for you that I have personally wondered. The fight was announced. We knew it was Colby Leon. Colby tried to get that fight to happen. Went to the media, started doing the work, tried to get the fight to happen. Leon went to the same media and said he wasn't going to do the fight, even pushed forward Muhammad. Now that was very early. If our jumping off point is hard, where Leon became available, that's our jumping off point.
After 5 rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards for decision. The judges score the contest 50-44, 50-45, and 50-45 for the winner by unanimous decision, Colby Covington.
Skills, but good is not enough. You can be great.
Fight fans, welcome back to Luxurytainment. As they say, stars make fights. I predict that Colby Covington beats Leon Edwards on 8 points decision. The last time out, Colby Covington cruised to a unanimous decision victory over his nemesis Masvidal. That fight came after weeks of trash talk between the former training partners. A few weeks after the fight, Covington was attacked outside of a Miami restaurant, resulting in a chipped tooth. Masvidal has been charged with an assault over this alleged incident. It's coming up to 6 months since we saw Covington in the cage, and many have wondered when the highly ranked welterweight would return to the cage and who he might face. That speculation has only intensified now that the 170-pound division has been shaken to its core by Leon Edwards' dethroning of Kamaru Usman, a man who has beaten Covington twice.
Fellow title contender Gilbert Burns recently said he had heard that the reason Covington has been so quiet is because he is suffering from serious neck and jaw injuries. Burns went as far as to speculate that Covington's injury were somehow related to the broken jaw he suffered in the technical knockout loss to Usman in 2019. Dana White was asked about these rumors concerning Covington. He shot them down, but didn't provide any specifics regarding Covington's health. Colby wants to fight, said Dana. He's ready to fight and we're making plans for him soon. Colby Covington is currently ranked second in the welterweight division, behind only Usman and the new champion Edwards. Behind Covington are Khamzat Chimaev, Gilbert Burns and Bilal Muhammad. Chimaev is due to face Nate Diaz next month. Bilal Muhammad also has a fight booked. If Covington was hoping to jump right back into a title fight, he probably has to wait. Dana White has been explicit in stating that Usman will receive an immediate rematch versus Edwards. Colby Covington came into the UFC in 2014 and won his first 3 bouts. In 2015, he suffered a submission loss and responded by going on a 7-fight winning streak. The last 3 of the fights in that streak were against Damian Maia, Rafael dos Anjos and Robbie Lawler. The run of wins earned him his first title shot at Usman. After losing that fight by a technical knockout, he rebounded with a win over Tyron Woodley. In 2020, Covington was awarded another title shot against Usman, which he lost by unanimous decision. The reaction that Colby Covington had to seeing Leon Edwards knocking out Kamaru Usman at UFC 278 is likely the same one shared by everyone watching around the world. Out of all the many rivalries that Usman has created over the years as welterweight champion, there was none with the same amount of bad blood as his feud with Covington, despite having 2 action-packed fights where he pushed the then champ to the brink both times, Chaos has never ceased to poke fun at and talk trash to Usman and vice versa. Given the nature of their beef and the fact that he has lost twice against Kamaru Usman, it is not surprising to think that Colby Covington was likely happy to see Leon Edwards upset the champ with an incredible head kick knockout. The final minutes of the UFC 278 main event, luckily there was a camera around to capture the raw reaction of the former interim champ when watching his rival get flatlined. In a video posted to Twitter, you can see Covington react moments after the kick lands, and Usman is left staring into the ether, unconscious on the canvas. As was the case with most onlookers, the expression on his face was one of utter shock and amazement at what he had just witnessed. While unsurprising to see the shock on his face, Colby Covington must be thrilled at what this means for his chances of being a welterweight champion. Time will tell what ends up being next for the division, especially with Dana White already wanting to see a trilogy between Edwards and Usman in the UK. But having a fresh face atop this division means that Chaos, Colby Covington, has a path to that title that does not require a third fight with Usman.
Colby Covington's going to fight Leon Edwards. Leon, as champion, would be the underdog. If I was to bring you Leon versus Usman, they're going to fight again. Usman would be the favorite. Leon would be the underdog. If I was to bring into you Chimaev versus Edwards, Edwards is going to be the underdog. What about Gilbert Burns? Where's he fit in there? Those guys ever match up? I don't remember it. Edwards versus Gilbert Burns. Edwards is going to be the underdog. Does that matter? Because, I'll just remind you, that's been the same story told about Charles Oliveira, and it's been told that way for a period of time. And these are the things that people have to think of at 170 pounds. As much as Kamaru Usman is wanting to get in there with Leon right now, there is very good belief that he's not going to get that next. Let's just say, for an example, just to prove my point, that we keep things as is, which is the winner of Chimaev versus Diaz fights for the belt, which happens to be held right now by Leon. If we preserve that, today, right here on Tuesday, we're going to assume that Kamaru Usman can then take on the winner. But guys, that's going to be 6 months from now in a best case scenario. Half of a year. Do you know how long that is in MMA terms? People are not even going to remember that Kamaru was winning the fight and he took a kick and that was his only loss. Oh, and by the way, it's been 5 years since he had a loss and he was dominant. He hasn't even lost rounds. Like, all of these things that are 100% true aren't even going to be remembered. It's going to be a quick decision. They're not going to tear in this thing. There are not detectives like in a murder case that are breaking things down and talking to witnesses. It's going to be very quick. What is on the tip of my head? What is on the tip of my tongue? That's going to be whatever today's headlines are. And Kamaru's going to have to play the same game. He's going to have to interject himself with somebody. Not to mention, Kamaru is going to have a who's who list that he has to go through, and there's going to be a proposition. Do I want to go right into a world title fight? Do I want to go right back into a main event? Or could I sneakily eliminate the Chimaev, the Rachmanov, some of these up-and-comers? Could I quickly slip in to a number one contenders match in a co-main event spot that is only 15 minutes? All of these things have to be considered. And if you talk about, I want a world title, I want a world title. If the guy that you are planning on taking on gets defeated, if there's an upset and he's no longer the champion, what do you do with your message then? It's tough. There isn't a perfect answer here. There's no way to know what's going to happen. no way to know that a head kick is going to be heard around the world and that the championship is headed across the pond to England. There's no way to know that ahead of time. There's a lot of risk. But there's still guys with strategy and guys without it. And the guys that have the strategy and invoke it and play that game get the opportunity. Sometimes it goes their way, sometimes it goes to somebody else's. But it for sure will go to somebody else who played the same game, just happened to get the strategy right. It's very interesting to think of Leon that way. And it's a very good comparison against Charles. I mean, Charles is going into a fight just by example. He's on defenses. I get that Charles isn't the champion. I get that but he's going into defenses multiple times for being champion, not being beat. He's still the underdog. He's a 3-1 dog right now to Islam that at one point the line had moved to 3.5 to 1. Nothing wrong with that, so what? I'm just making the comparison that Charles Oliveira versus the field has very similar odds as Leon Edwards versus the field.
So guys, who do you think, if this matchup does go ahead, who wins? Colby Covington or Leon Edwards? As style makes fights, I predict that Colby Covington beats Leon Edwards on a points decision. Let's just hope there's no jaw issues. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, share and comment, and have a fabulous day.
We go again.
Go, brother, let's go. I'm gonna get some smoke, bro.
But there's a guy here that likes to talk. It looks like he got the title and he made his money and he's kind of cashed out. But now it's time to come see the man, the real champion, the people's champion, the king of Miami.
Colby, not on the skin, I just don't like him. For me, it's banter. I feel like I'm gonna go out there and want him to put my weight on.